Today on the Daniel Baldwin Show, Zohran Mamdani. Can he win the New York mayoral race? Find out right now. Good morning and welcome to the Daniel Baldwin Show. It is Monday, the 30th of June. June is gone. And we're coming into July, 4th of July, coming at us. Let's get right to it. We've got an interesting show today because what is happening in the world right now, man? I'm going to go to viewer mail, and this is Kelly Garden of Dubuque, Iowa, says, Daniel, have you heard anything about Larissa Sherrill Thompson? Actually, Kelly, I have heard about her. Very sad story in South Carolina, in Lancaster, South Carolina. Let me read this to you. 6 illegal aliens charged for brutal murder of South Carolina mother in a random attempted robbery. Lancaster, South Carolina, local authorities have charged 6 illegal aliens between the ages of 13 and 21 with the random murder of South Carolina mother of 2, Larissa Sherrill Thompson. They have also been charged in a burglary attempt and armed robbery. I had to look this story up. I had to really go get. I heard about it. I try to stay topical and informed about what's going on, and it's not just the big stories. And is this bill going to pass with Trump? And is blah 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 blah. So this bothered me. This story. I'm going to tell you why. So let me just give you this facetious example. I want you to think about what I'm about to say right now, just for a second. Forget about what side you're on, whether you write terrible things to me because you don't like where I stand politically. Just as a human being, as a person of faith, whatever faith, as a father, a mother, a sister, a brother, a significant other. Just think about this for a minute. So, and I'm making this up. There's some kind of fish, and it comes in from where? Vietnam, Argentina, wherever, and they test it. And they go, hey man, this has this weird bug in it. It's not a lot of the fish. It's not a lot of fish that has this bug. But if you ingest that fish, you die. I mean, like almost every time. Few people around the globe have made it. And it's a very popular fish. It's like, a tilapia, one of these things where they just, produce the hell out of it in bags and freeze it and fresh and all over the world. But just one, they've isolated it, they found it, okay? And it can kill you, and it's killing people. Not a lot. It's 1 in a 10,000, 1 in 100, whatever it is. But in those ones that have whatever their blood type and a chromosome and this, I'm not a scientist, and I'm not gonna pretend that I know so much about science. But you get the idea. It's a small number, but it's instantaneous. You eat it at the table, you fall over, you croak right there, you're gone. Now the industry of producing this fish would affect, hundreds of millions, billions of dollars in business. But they have a test. They have a test they can do that tells you whether or not this fish has this bug in it. Here's the question. Do we test some of the fish? 1 in every 100 pieces? Do we test 1 in every 10,000 pieces? Do we test every piece? Does it come by in a conveyor belt where like a light goes over it and says, bing, that one, grab it, it's bad. Now, if you're in the fishing business and you see how much that would cost you and what that would cost your company and that your profits would suffer and whatever it is, you can hear and understand their frustration. But if you're the parent of a 10-year-old kid that ate a piece of that fish and died, and you knew there were ways that you could have prevented the death of this kid or this father or this mother or this, whatever, it doesn't matter. You get the point. Wouldn't we want to go to whatever level we could to ensure that no one ever died from that fish because it was preventable? It was, Now, is there ever going to be someone who catches the fish wildly? Are there going to be exceptions to that rule? Yes, of course there will be. There will be. There will be deaths still for the fish that has the bug in it. That's what crossing the border illegally is. Think about it for a second. You would go to any level to make sure that no one's going to eat a fish that's going to kill them. But here's 6 kids, and they're kids, even 21, that came over illegally. That could have been prevented. We could have stopped them from coming over. We didn't have to allow over 20 million people to come into this country. We didn't. And while the Biden administration left the border wide open and all that attention was going on, he didn't just ratchet it down and close the valve and stop them from coming. They kept coming. They kept coming and they kept coming and they kept coming. And this is after Trump and after Obama and after Clinton and after Bush and deporting and trying to stop these people. This was unprecedented. Now a mom with 2 kids is dead for no reason. They just killed her. They just murdered her. So what do you say to the family, to those kids who have no mother anymore, to the sister of Larissa who is raising those kids now in honor of her sister? She's raising her 2 kids now. When there was a test that could have been done, or we could have tried to have made sure much more stringently that this type of murder never took place. And another thing I'll tell you is, Larissa, it was African American. And so if she had been white, if she had been the mother of 2 and she was a white girl in South Carolina, you'd have seen this story all over the place, man. It would have been at the top of the news feed. Larissa, instead of Larissa or some other name, or Lauren White was murdered by 6 illegals. Well, and that would have been at the top of the story on CNN. It would have been at the top of the story on Fox. But here she was, this just lovely African-American woman on her way to go bowling with her friends. And they drove by and just opened fire on her and killed her. I mean, for the sake of killing her. And you barely heard a whisper about this on the news. There was no outrage, there was no rallies, there were no people rushing to the side of this family. Not in great numbers, not nationally. I'm not saying that the people of South Carolina don't have a heart. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it didn't get the kind of attention it would have got if she was white. And that's a fact. That's a fact in my opinion. So that's something for us to look at, isn't it? Didn't she deserve to be able to get to her bowling match and have some fun with her friends, blow off a little steam because she's raising 2 kids? Just like you or I were allowed to. Really sad, guys. Really, really sad. Larissa, known to family as Cheryl, was on her way to go bowling with friends on May 2nd, but she never made it. Family found her shot dead at the wheel of her car on the side of the road. It's a lot on all of us. Like I said, we're numb, we're angry, we're sad, said Tiffany Thompson. That's her sister. Deputies arrested 3 adults and 3 juveniles ages 13 to 21 for Larissa's murder. The sheriff said none of the suspects are in the country legally. The sheriff said none of the suspects are in the country legally. So when you sit there and you point your fingers at what's going on deportation-wise, when it's gone on with every administration since, forever. But when you look at that and you think about what I told you about the fish, they all got to go and be tested. You have to come in the door. You have to fill out the paperwork. You have to be screened. We want to make sure you're not some convicted felon or accused felon or terrible person. And then there's a trial period that you get here, and we assist you, we help you. We're going to help you get on your feet. We're going to help you get out of some country where it's not going so well for you. We welcome you, but you have to do it the right way. On Saturday, I'm sorry, sir, do you have a reservation? No, I don't. Yeah, we don't take tables without a reservation on the weekend because it's really, really busy. Well, we're the United States, the best restaurant in the world. And if you want a table here, you got to make a reservation. You got to call up, you got to set the appointment, you got to come in, you got to fill out stuff, yada, 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 yada. You know the drill. This is why this woman's not coming back. She's not coming back. She's dead. I got so disturbed reading this and getting ready to do the show, I forgot to turn over my hourglass, so I don't know how long the show is going to go for, but I'm upset about this one. I mean, I'm upset about anyone who dies unjustifiably, but it was sad to me. And this amazing wave that's gripping America right now, particularly in New York State, is about Zohran Mamdani, who is the Democratic candidate for New York City mayor, after a stunning victory last week, has said no one should have $1 billion. In an interview with NBC, Mamdani also stood by the proposal to tax richer and whiter neighborhoods, arguing the city's property tax system is unfair. Wow. So, I mean, there's a lot to talk about this guy, a lot to talk about the Democratic Party. He won the nomination over Cuomo, and he's the old guard. You know, his dad, Mario Cuomo, I remember. His father, Mario, I remember. He was governor of New York for a long time. I was a Mario Cuomo fan, actually. I liked Mario. I think the city of New York and the state of New York liked him for a long time. I don't know, his kids have, Chris, I know from being interviewed by him and doing lots of different things in and around Chris's career with the Baldwin family. But this guy, let's face it, again, so many people want to dance around it. This guy is not American born. He's a Muslim. And he has posed a threat on the old guard in New York. Let me read on to you. So this is from the AP Wire. In choosing Zohran Mamdani as the candidate for mayor, Democrats in America's most Jewish city have nominated an outspoken critic of Israel, alarming some in New York's Jewish community, and signing a sea change in the priorities of one of the party's most loyal voting groups. Now, there are a lot of Jews in New York. I have a lot of Jewish friends. Went to school. My town was called Matzah Pizza. It's Massapequa. It was called Matzah Pizza because of how many Jews and Italians lived in the town. We were, the Irish Catholic kind of oddity. It wasn't dominated, particularly the finances of the town. There were a lot more people of the Jewish faith that had a lot of money, as there are in New York City. So this guy doesn't like billionaires. He doesn't want people to have $1 billion. He doesn't think they should. He doesn't like Jews, which the highest population of people of the Jewish faith are from New York City. He doesn't like Israel. And he says, but this part really jumped out at me. This is a quote. This is a quote about this guy. Signaling a sea change in the priorities of one of the party's most loyal voting groups. This guy says that they should change the taxes based on white areas. Wait a second. So does that mean, I'm trying to understand it, I really am. So the whiter the area, so that the assumption that African Americans that live in New York City, none of them have any money, none of them can be wealthy, none of them can, there's a huge amount of very successful African American people that live in New York City. There's a huge number of successful Puerto Rican people, a big Puerto Rican community in New York City. And I understand if you wanted to say economically challenged or economically successful or whatever and do it that way, but he did it by their color. He singled out a group of people based on their color and said they should pay more money. Am I the only one that finds that wow? Whether or not a larger percentage of people in New York City are white or are white and Jewish, or you're going to increase the taxes in the white areas. Well, I lived on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It's one of my favorite. The Upper East Side is nice, and there's parts of the Village, Midtown, this, that. Pockets that are nice, pockets that are tough, that are, higher concentration of crime and everything. I think the economics has a lot to do with it. I think that the city itself has to patrol and protect, and they won't say this, but they do, patrol and protect areas that pay higher taxes. I think it happens. But to designate them as white, wow. I mean, this guy's really stirring it up. And I think that making people look at things, I think that's interesting to me. I do. I mean, I don't look at this guy because I don't know him as a human being. I don't know that much about him. He's a state assemblyman or something for a few things now. He's run on some interesting ideas and ideals. Obviously got success. He beat Cuomo, and he's the nominee now for the Democrats. It does open a Pandora's box of concern for me when you start identifying groups and associate what they should pay property tax-wise based on their color. I don't think I would ever have done that. I don't think it was a wise thing to do. I think it was a racist thing to do. I think he's projecting against a race. Obviously, more stereotypically in this country, we talk about racism against African Americans, and we understand why, because they've been persecuted, they were enslaved, and there's many reasons why we would say that. And I get that, I understand that, and it was all bad, it was all wrong. But it's still, nevertheless, he's not an African American, but he is a foreigner of a different race. So, wow. So listen to this. Mamdani shrugged off President Trump's attacks on him and denied he's a communist during a Sunday interview in which the progressive New York City mayoral candidate said he doesn't think there should be billionaires. I'm not sure, without actually talking to him, what he means by that. But if your business is Amazon, if your business is auto parts and you're the most successful, if you own whatever you own, and it gets that successful and becomes global, and you're a billionaire, I don't understand. How would you prevent that? Would you tax them so much to prevent them from becoming billionaires? Why it matters, Trump, in an interview on Sunday, doubled down in his assertion that Mamdani is a communist and said the likely Democratic primary winner must do the right thing if he's elected mayor of New York City, or else he'll withhold federal funding. So, there have been some threats on programs that this guy says he supports and that he would back up, and I'm going to list you some of the stuff that he says he's going to do. Some big stuff. Mamdani ran an energetic campaign focused on affordability, promising free buses, universal child care, a $30 an hour minimum wage, a rent freeze, and city-run supermarkets, all paid for with higher taxes on the top 1% of earners. So those billionaires, or people approaching being billionaire, people worth 100 million, wealthy people, are going to pay for $30 an hour minimum wage, which the minimum wage is like $7. So we're going to quadruple the minimum wage. We're going to have city-run supermarkets, so the city is going to be responsible for the supermarkets. Now, that sounds great that the city's going to own them, which I guess the implication is that the city will be responsible then and drive the number down because it's a city. So the city's not looking to make a profit on the supermarket. They're gonna do it for whatever the cost of doing it is and transfer that value onto you, the person that lives in the city, so you can have better food. That's kind of a cool idea. I think that is. Now, I don't know how that's going to affect the little store owner because, as you know, in New York, there's in every other corner is the little market. And I had a really good friend of mine who became friends with him because he owned the market. They were an Asian family, came to this country, American dream. The father was with them, the mother had passed, the boys took over the store and they built it up, and they had really good food, and now they have a couple of those stores, and I don't know if they're gazillionaires or whatever they are, but they came from I believe it was war-torn Vietnam that they came over from, if I remember correctly. And they did well. Now you're going to have a city-run program. The city is going to own the supermarkets. And as much as I love passing that value on, what do you say to the guy that owns a supermarket? What do you say to the store guys that have been there for a long, long time that can't compete price-wise because they're trying to make a living? I mean, you're going to have a problem there. I think you're going to have a problem there. But I like some of the things the guy's going for. How are you going to pull up a $30 an hour minimum wage? That sounds like the shiny carrot. If they say if you put a little hook on anything shiny and dip it in the water enough, a fish will come over, be attracted to it, and bite on it. This sounds like an election kind of thing where I'm not sure how you're going to be able to get the city that's already, with all the immigrants that are in it and struggling greatly with housing and homelessness and all the other problems that they have in New York City right now, how you're going to quadruple the minimum wage. So I think that's bullshit. That was one of those, elect me and I'll put a hamburger in everyone's home, Popeye. So that's not happening. There's a lot of talk, and this is part of the reason why I do the show, because I'm not afraid to talk about it. I don't care. You love Barack Obama, and I backed him 2 elections. But then I find out things that he's supposedly done, and I look at the information available and what kind of proof, and are you just saying that? And then I start looking at more and more stuff, and I go, maybe history is not going to be as friendly to this guy as we thought it was going to be. Maybe not. Again, we'll wait to see what comes out in historic papers and so on and so forth, but that's not the point. I'll talk about stuff that a lot of people won't. A lot of people won't be direct and look you right in the eye and tell you, that's bullshit, that's not what happened. So, what are people worried about? They're worried about this guy and his ties to Islam. They're worried about this guy's ties to a region of the world where terrorism is very common. We're in a city that 2 buildings, whoever was responsible for, the buildings are fallen to the ground, and most terrorist attacks and wars that we've lost our boys and girls fighting against people that look, sound, and believe the same things as this guy. Does that mean that we don't have immigrants that come to this country that are from that region of the world, that are from Iran, they're from Iraq, that are from Saudi Arabia, that are from, wherever we're talking about, Afghanistan, that aren't law-abiding good citizens that wanted an opportunity to be here in America and pursue the American dream? No, of course we have those people. But again, the bug in the fish, you have to screen that, and we have to be careful as we look at nuclear enrichment in Iran and people that have ties and people that openly don't like Jews. We have a long history in this country of being close to Israel and close to people of the Jewish faith, and we have more Jews, I believe, in the U.S. than are even in Israel. We have the most people of the Jewish faith of any country in the world, I'm pretty sure, but we can fact check that. I think you get the point. So here's a guy going to the most Jewish city in the U.S. and openly, letting people know he doesn't like Jews. Wow. So what are people that are Jewish, what are New Yorkers who are worried about this guy going to do? Exclusive. New York City Republican mayoral nominee Curtis Sliwa slammed the door on any talk of him dropping out of the race and blamed incumbent Eric Adams for the rise of socialist Zohran Mamdani. So you remember Curtis, he's running for mayor. He's, I think, like 70 years old now. He was the one who gave us the Guardian Angels. I liked the Guardian Angels. I like Curtis. I think he tried really, really hard to bring attention to a lot of social unrest and a lot of stuff that went on, particularly against African Americans, injustices that occurred, Eleanor bumpers, and I could go on and on and on and on with the number of cases of brutality, injustice. Say what you will about the New York City police. They're a great, great police force. But every once in a while, in any business, you get a guy that jumps the gun, or a guy who does something, or who is a racist, or does whatever, and you prosecute him. I don't think you say that the whole city's police department, and that's not true. That's not true. New York City's police department is the finest in the country, or one of the finest, for sure, and under a lot of pressure, and do a great job. But anyway, these guys, these Guardian Angels and Curtis, I remember they were hot, back in the 70s and the 80s. They need him, Curtis, in what's going to be a really tight race. So you're looking at, interesting how the melting pot of New York, you're looking at Jews who don't want Zohran to win the election are going to turn around and lean on Curtis to step out and support Eric Adams, because we can't let this guy, is the attitude, they can't let this guy win. New York City is a traditionally a blue state. This guy won and the city is blue. They won and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Maybe, they can get Curtis to see the advantage of backing Adams. I think Adams would have to cut a deal with Curtis. Curtis is going to take on some prominent role, lieutenant governor, or whatever. Something's going to happen in New York in order to make Curtis decide he's going to back Eric Adams, because it could be solely enough just to make sure that Zohran doesn't get in office. He could do that, but I think the fear factor is going to kick in. Do we trust this guy with his connections to places that have traditionally been terrorist states, just by his background, just by his last name, his ethnicity, where he was born and raised, and is he a threat? Is he a threat in New York City to give a guy from this region of the world that much power and make him the mayor of New York? I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel. I know that I left New York City a long time ago because I thought it was just falling apart. The same for LA. I got in big trouble with a friend of mine who I said that I thought that LA was a shithole now, and and I still stand by that. Is all of LA terrible? Are all the people in LA terrible? Is all of Hollywood terrible? No, of course not. It's way different than when I lived there. It's way different than in the 80s and 90s when I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles. And there was always a big city. There was homelessness, there was crime, there was stuff, and there was areas where it was pocketed more intensely than others. But it didn't look like now. I mean, now it looks like a third world country. Now along the beaches and the highways and, it's just, and so many of it is not people that made the choice to be a drug addict or made the choice to be homeless. People don't make choices like that. Life happens. You'd be surprised how fast you can become homeless. You'd be surprised, man. It can happen really quickly. When you live check to check and you get fired or the company folds or whatever and 100 employees are down, a restaurant closes, and that was your lifeline for 2 years. And you took that apartment because you were making that money. And suddenly, for whatever reason, they opened up a Taco Bell down the street and your little Mexican place isn't doing as well. And you're like, man, what am I gonna do? They're cutting my hours back. I can't make my rent. Hey man, what do you got? And next thing you know, you get kicked out. You get evicted from your place. You can't make your car payment. You went out, no house and no car in 6 months and no job. You're just a regular cat trying to make it here. I'm not blaming these people for what happened to them. I'm just telling you, it's worse and worse. And a lot of it's our veterans too. I mean, I don't know what's going on with Gavin Newsom in California, but the package available to somebody who served his country to keep them free is crap because there's too many homeless people out there. So fix it. Fix it. Don't criticize me for saying it looks like crap out there. Don't criticize me as I try to place people into sobriety and help people through veterans programs that I'm involved in with friends of mine that run them. Fix it. Fix the shit out there right now. It's awful in California, man. I mean, it is awful. Go to San Francisco right now. Go to Oakland. I mean, you can't even recognize Oakland anymore. And I'm not talking about a pocket of a couple of blocks. I'm talking about the city is in trouble, man. The city of Oakland is in trouble. And the rich tradition of, going up there for me to watch Oakland A's games and to watch the Raiders play up there when they were up there. And I knew Al Davis and, my heart breaks for the people that live in areas where they paid that kind of money to move in. And the people that, and more than that, the have-nots, the people that don't have any money, that are in a tent city. I mean, it's just awful, man, the quality of life. Can we fix that? Can we fix that before we worry about smart cities in the Pacific Palisades with Olympics coming and stuff that, it's just all crap? Get everybody, build a smart city of small homes, modular homes, and put 250,000 homeless people in there along with a lot of veterans and help them for what they've done. And spend some money on that. And then I won't say that the city of Los Angeles is a shithole compared to what it was when I lived there. I won't say that anymore because you'll do something about it and you'll do something to change it. That's what I think. That's why I do the show. So back to this guy. Culturally, because his life is very, very different, this Mamdani. I want to read to you a slang term they called when I lived up there in Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. So the West Coast, just above the United States, is British Columbia. That's their province. And the city is Vancouver. And they called it Hongcouver. Hongcouver is a slang term for Vancouver, Canada, used to describe the significant influx of immigrants from Hong Kong in the late 20th century. The term highlights the city's large Chinese population, particularly those who arrived before the 1997 handover of Hong Kong from British to Chinese rule. So Hong Kong was run by the British. Great Britain owned Hong Kong after World War II, and they had a 50-year lease on it. When that 50-year lease came up in 1997, there was a real fear in Hong Kong that China was going to take over rule of Hong Kong again and just take a bunch of really wealthy people's money, their real estate, and really just kind of hammer them. So they ran around the globe looking for a place to call home and invest their money. And Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada said, hey, we'd love to have you come. We'd love to have you come. Here, put your money in our banks, invest in our real estate, and we'll let you come over and you can pay a nominal fee to get in and you'll be safe. And they did, like hundreds of thousands of people. Let me tell you something. I was there when this happened. The architecture, these buildings were going up all around the waterway, all along the coast of the city of Vancouver. And they were all Asian, the four corner with the turned up roofs. And it was obviously what appeared to me to be very Asian design, all the way to bonsai plants on the street and in the schools. What are you going to teach a school that is predominantly Asian about history in Canada? Are you going to continue to talk about fur trapping and things that happened in Canada? Oh, Canada. Or the people that are paying the taxes want you to start talking about Asian history and how things happened in China and what these kids should grow up and learn and be proud of. And it did. They changed the curriculums, and they forever changed what it looks like to be from Vancouver, BC. They did. They lost a lot of the Canadian flavor of life there. They did. I promise you, I was there for it. And again, I'm not saying I don't understand why when someone comes and invests all their money, why they wouldn't have a say in what their kids are learning and so on and so on. But this was Canada. I tell that story because I wonder, as we try to change New York City, as the Democrats are holding on to pockets of power. When you look at a map of the United States, a land map, and you look at how much of the land of the United States is actually votes Democrat versus how much of the land votes for Republicans. You take it blue and red and you can see that it's just the vast majority of it is red. There's a lot more support land-wise. The concentrated populations of places like the cities in cities in California, New York, a few other areas are what dominates keeping the Democrats in any kind of power. So what happens in New York City? They can't lose New York City. If the Democrats lost New York City, they'd lose every single election for a long time. But here's a guy that stands for some real different stuff. So that tells you that New York wants some change, obviously, particularly the Democratic Party, because I think they're kind of flailing a little bit right now. But so much so that they're willing to elect a person that is very different culturally than what has been the stereotypical electorate in the state of New York. My eyes are wide open. I'd love to see the mayor, and I'd love to see New York flip to red, because that would end any problems getting different parties elected on the national level. But with that said, I've always, the New York mentality is very different than even Chicago. Philly is very similar. You have to be an East Coaster, even Boston, If someone was to do outrageous things once they got elected, they would just bounce the person. They would, he'd just be gone. So I don't worry about this guy getting too much power. Although, when you look at the things that are being talked about Obama right now, and what he may have been responsible for, and things that was he fully aware of that happened, maybe you do have to really be careful about who it is you put into office, because the stuff I'm hearing up in Washington right now is crazy. So I am going to say, I'm going to go out there and say that I'm concerned for New York City right now. I'm concerned. I don't, as my wife and I look at places that we'd be interested in potentially moving to down the road, New York has come up, the state, probably not the city. I couldn't live in New York City again. I could go visit. I grew up on Long Island, so New York City had a great influence on me. I've had many apartments in New York. My brothers, also we had a lot of fun in New York City. It's my home, New York. But I don't think I could live there with the kids. It would be too hard for me. And I have a little one too. He's only 2. It's not the same as when Alec raised his daughter in New York, and he spent a lot of time in New York. More so he and Billy than Stephen and I. And I was the one that went out to California and stayed for a long time. But I think this guy overall is going to be bad for New York City. I do. I think the amount of controversy and having such open hatred and disdain and dislike for Jews. I tried to get a hold of my dear friend Rabbi Benny and ask him. I wanted to get a rabbinical Jewish opinion on what are they saying? Because he would know. He's a very powerful rabbi in Queens. He didn't answer the phone. So it was too early in the morning to get a hold of Rabbi Benny. But I might put something on the website or on TikTok and a couple other places. Maybe we'll do some shorts to talk about what's the inside Jewish opinion of this guy. Is he a threat? Are they worried about him? I mean, is he a fad right now? Do we trust him? Do we trust somebody who has ties to places that are, enriching uranium in a potential building of arms that could create terrible problems around the globe if they ever, especially fell into the hands of terrorists who obviously are capable of doing anything to hurt America. They want Americans dead. That's what they want. They scream it in the streets of their cities. So. Yeah, I'm a little worried about this guy, but let's see how it plays out. Let's see what happens. It's interesting to see what's going to happen with Eric Adams. And are people going to? When they talk about Islamophobia, are they gonna be upset? My dog is yelling for me. He's like, I thought you were going to be done with the show by now. Are you going to come out and see me? I just have to go out and rub his head. That's all. Yeah, I'm not trying to be Islamophobic. I don't even know much about this guy. I'm just telling you what I'm reading about him and some of the things that he said that I think are ridiculous. He's not going to get the minimum wage to $30 an hour and blah, 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 blah. But some of the other programs are very socialist, supermarkets that are run by the city and free this, free that, and let's make Whitey pay more money. Like, jeez. Wow. But he won the primary, this guy. He won the primary. So is that to say that I'd like to look at the demographic where non-whites, the one that pushed him over the top, is there that huge a voting base of Islam there that rallied behind this guy, or just did a lot of people get lazy and not vote, which happens? Low voter turnout, people who were looking at this guy saying he's not going to do it. I think that's what happened with Trump. Listen, people hate Trump. Let me tell you something. I have members of my own family that I suspect of this. When he announced he was going to run against Hillary, I think Hillary laughed her ass off. She went, Donald Trump? Really? Like, I don't have to go against a seasoned politician. I'm going against the host of The Apprentice and The Builder, Donald Trump. Casino guy. Okay, great. And I don't think people worked as hard. I don't think people really thought he could win. And I think as we got, and of course I said, of course he can win. Like, you better be careful. Like, you guys aren't throwing the same amount of fundraisers and the same amount of parties. And they were like, and you heard, there's that great montage of all the people going, Donald Trump, Pelosi and this one and that one, saying Donald Trump is not going to win. He's not going to be president. He will never be elected president. Whoopi Goldberg, this one, that one, all of them saying Donald Trump's not going to win. And he won. And they didn't do, it was a margin that was pretty tight, and they didn't do the things they normally do to get somebody elected or not elected. He laughed all the way to the candy store, man. He did. He got it done. So I think that's part of where the hate comes from. I think people got caught, they say the expression caught with your pants down. I think people were standing there in the freezing cold wind, bare ass naked, going, what do we do? Did we just actually witness this? Because experts said he wasn't going to win. And I was considered not an expert, and I was considered an idiot, and I've gone on to predict a bunch of different things, just like I did last night. He would never win again after him running, blah, blah. And I went, he's not only going to win, he's going to win every single one of those swing states. They're lying to you. They're reporting to you things with an agenda to try to shape how you think. That's what goes on here. I'm just telling you what I'm seeing. I'm just telling you what goes on every day. I read it. I have to try to decipher through and check with people. Did that happen? Did that really happen? Or did they? No, that really happened. Yeah, get ready. That's going to, okay. And I make little notes, and I'm texting people, and I got to be careful what I write, and because Big Brother is watching the machine, and they don't want you to have an influence over them. Blah. I want to throw up when I think about how corrupt the news is and how corrupt it is. I don't do that. Now, I inject my opinion. I inject what I think it means. But when it comes to predictability, I've predicted 5 of the most significant, biggest things that have happened in American history in the last 3 years. I have. Much to the demise of people who don't like me and don't love me anymore. But I just tell you what I think is really going on. That's it. So But let's do this. Let's agree that with all the opinions and all the politics and all the different stuff that we do in this show, that we love our country. We love our country. Not all of us act in a way that is as obvious in their love, but I'm going to say it's a given. So here comes how I end my show, what I look forward to when I'm rattling on, and I'm going to say, dear Lord, God, thank you for your hand, thank you for your guidance, and thank you for your protection, Lord. And as we think about our country in New York City, Lord, let your will be done in New York. Let the people see and get the information necessary, and let your hand guide whatever change you make or whatever is to happen in New York. Let it be a godly thing that happens in New York, and protect those people and keep them safe, Lord. We love New York City. New York City, the powerful, the great, the mighty New York City. So we need your blessing over New York City, Lord. We really do. And Lord, a special prayer to Cheryl and her family, her sister, those kids, and those misguided boys that came here illegally and killed this woman. I ask you, Lord, to do with them as you will. Amen. So I get reflective. I get emotional a little bit when I think about anyone dying. Obviously, please don't write into me and tell me that you think you seem to be only focusing on X, Y, Z. Human beings are fallible. Human beings make mistakes. In the world that I live in my faith, I believe they can be forgiven, but they have to ask and they have to make admissions about what they've done, and they have to turn their life over to Jesus Christ. That's what I believe. You don't have to believe that. We can watch each other's shows and interact with each other, and at the end of the day, I always say this: we're going to find out who's right. We're going to find out. So are all the Buddhists wrong, or is Buddha also one of the sons of God? I don't know. I don't know. I know what it says in the book, the big play book, the Bible. And I try to live my life in a godly way and love everyone if I can. I don't always. I fall short of that mark, I promise you. But here we are on this show. Thank you so much, by the way, for subscribing to the show. And thank you so much for liking. Please hit like. Please subscribe. I just had my coffee go down the wrong spot. Please hit like. Please subscribe. Please share the show. Get people hip to what's going on in my show, because I want your letters and I want your emails and I want your comments, so I can single them out and I can say something. And if you want to be on the show, if you want to send a video, message me with a little video. Hey Daniel, it's so-and-so, I think it was Kelly today, here in Dubuque, and we love your show, and here's my question, or here's my thought, or you can write it out. And if it's cool to mention you by name, I will. But the subscribing and liking and sharing the show is so important, and I really appreciate you for doing it. And those people on YouTube and TikTok and Rumble and all the different social media sites that support the show, thank you so much. Really, thank you. You make it fun and exciting and challenging. The world is the world's a crazy place sometimes, and I find myself a couple times a week for a couple of days just submerged in it. You know what I really like? My wife and we do this. I look forward and the show makes this viable in my life. I look up, because she's a very well-known attorney here in Atlanta and has had a very blessed life, after law school, and her successes here. And I admire her very much. But I try to surprise her with a new, funky, cool restaurant, and then one of those boutique, small hotels. And so I'll book the reservation at the restaurant, and I'll find one of those little historic Airbnbs, or a bed and breakfast, or a little hotel, and surprise her with a date night. We don't do it that much, but when we do it, all this and all this stuff, when I have to think about murder in South Carolina and invest myself in reading about this poor woman and her family and her kids, and then Zohran and New York and being against Jews, and I have so many friends that are Jewish and have backed Israel in my career, and blah, blah, and it weighs on you. I get away with the smartest, prettiest girl just for a night, and grandma takes bat and my girls are old enough to do their own thing, and I get to escape from it and put my phone down and remember why my life is so, so blessed, because I have her in my life. So, baby, I know you're watching the show. Thank you, and I'll be planning a vacation soon. God bless you. Have an amazing week. I will see you on Friday.